Welcome everyone. I haven't filmed the monthly bloomers for a while, so in this episode we'll take a look at the standard and large African violet varieties that are currently in bloom, and then in the next episode I'll show you the miniatures and semi-miniatures. Here on this shelf I have assembled the largest plants and also filled in a few compact growing plants. So we'll start with the large variety by Pat Hancock, Buckeye My Oh My. This is the finishing blooms of the first mature blooming cycle. It grows beautiful, robust foliage that is variegated, and the blooms are semi-double white with pink centers. Very showy African violet variety. Next, here is in full bloom a variety by Ken Mozaleski called Hunter's Slippery When Wet. Some blooms have started fading, and I wanted to catch this plant on video in full bloom to share with all of you guys so you can see how profusely this hybrid can bloom. Hunter's Slippery When Wet. Also variegated foliage on this variety. I love the green edge around the petals. It makes the blooms last longer than those without the green edge in other varieties. Here is my favorite No ID that is a star in many of my African violet bloomers episodes because it blooms very consistently. Right now it's not the best, not the most profuse blooming cycle. We are in February, so it's fully understandable. Also green frilled edge here around the petals, very dark deep purple blooms and dark green foliage. Next to it is also finishing the blooming cycle. This is Ness Cranberry Lace, very full double blooms with a dark fuchsia color and very light pink reverse on the petals that creates an effect of the white pencil edge around each petal. Here is a Ukrainian hybrid by Olena Lipetska, LE-Sedoi Graf. Very unusual blooms on this variety. Lavender, different shades of lavender, and transitioning into lavender gray and also green as the blooms mature. Beautiful variegated foliage, very easy grower for me. Another Buckeye, a favorite of many, a winner in many African violet shows. This hybrid is known for being best in show when grown by professional growers. This one is far from perfection, but I'm trying to do it justice. Buckeye Nostalgia. My favorite Buckeye. I love the icy blue blooms on this variety. They're not double, they are single and semi-double on this plant. Some green edge, very light green in the cooler growing temperature, and variegated foliage. Buckeye Nostalgia. And finally, a large variety by Betty Bryan, shown in many of my videos, continuing to bloom, and by Betty Bryan. Longifolia, variegated with dark rose pink semi-double blooms. This is the second set of African violet standards and large varieties. There are two plants of the same variety at the beginning and also at the end of this set. So we'll start with Lyon's Sassy Sadie. These are the two plants of one and the same hybrid growing in two different light settings. All other growing conditions are the same, with the exception of another variable. This one is still growing in the 2.75 inch small plastic pot, and this one has been repotted into a 3.75, so it's an inch larger pot. And this one is growing under the regular shop lights, like you see here. And this one is growing under the Varina T8 full spectrum grow light. So you can see how different light settings and also different size of the pot can influence the look and the amount of the blooms, and also the length of the bloom stalks on this plant. They're rather compact and closer to the crown, so they're shorter bloom stalks, whereas in this plant the bloom stalks are taller and the blooms are not as profuse as on the other plant that grows under Barina. And this one grows again under the regular LED shop light. Lyon's Sassy Sadie. Next plant is a hybrid by Tatiana Valkova called VaT-Tsar Gorokh. Into English it translates as King of Peas. And this is a variety that has been difficult to grow in my conditions. It has the somewhat unruly, in my conditions, again, variegated foliage, and I've seen it grown beautifully by other growers, so I'm still trying to find the solution to grow it symmetrically. And the blooms are temperature dependent. So here we see the blooms that opened up in cooler growing conditions. They're almost white, beautiful star-shaped blooms, but very little purple and no pink buff fantasy on the older blooms. And then here we see the blooms that grow true to description, especially this one. This is how it's supposed to bloom, with the pink buff fantasy on the purple background thumbprint, and the main background is white. VaT-Tsar Gorokh, or King of Peas. Next is a young plant beginning the first blooming cycle, Ace of Spades, one of my favorites. Semi-double white blooms with purple centers and dark green serrated foliage. This is one of my favorite hybrids by Ken Mozelewski, Hunter's Kashmir. The blooms are truly unique. They have a frilled dark purple edge and the lavender main color. Variegated foliage. It needs to be repotted. It can grow quite large. Here is a Ukrainian hybrid by Olena Lebedska, LE-Brizingida. It's white ruffled stars with yellow centers. Very subtle yellow, but you can definitely see it. And variegated foliage, compact growing, standard variety. Next is a bloom chimera, Ma's Wicked Witch. It's a registered chimera sport from Funambule. Variegated foliage, chimeric purple stripes on very, very light pink background, and some white fantasy on the chimeric stripes. This is a no ID violet that I brought with me from Southern California. when I moved to Oregon. I got this one at Lowe's store in Burbank, and the beautiful blooms was what attracted me most. They are double purple star-shaped blooms, and I don't know the name of it, so I call it a no ID, but I've been looking to see what it resembles. And sometimes it has puff fantasy, which is hard to see here, but I think the closest match, even though we're not supposed to guess the names, but the closest match that I found in the hybrids was Eskimo Kisses, which is kind of an older variety. And this particular bloom doesn't have any puff fantasy. Very interesting. And finally, here are two plants of the same variety, Ness Candy Pink. I wanted to show them to you today to demonstrate the difference in blooms between the first blooming cycle. Here you see very modest, almost a single, some semi-double blooms on the younger plant. And here is the mature blooming cycle on the older plant. I will be repotting it soon and removing all the blooms, but I wanted to show them to you today so you can see how different the blooms can look between mature blooming cycles and the very first blooming cycle. Ness Candy Pink. And finally, last but not least, in the standard / large African violet episode are these varieties that grow best for me in natural light. This is Apache Gem, beautiful leaf variegation and multi-tone purple lavender blooms with darker edge. And they're not very large blooms if you compare it to the next variety, but it blooms profusely and it grows really nicely. And under the lights, it used to bloom nonstop, but the leaves would just be dormant all the time. They wouldn't develop. So I found that in natural light, it grows better for me. Next to it is a hybrid called AV-Krymskaia Chereshnia. It translates to Crimean cherry, and the blooms are all opened up now, very large. In natural light, you can see the true color. They're very deep, dark burgundy on the dark green, almost black quilted background. It is a sight to see. I must say that this variety always amazes me with the colors. And then finally, this variety is here because it is scheduled for repotting. So you can see here behind the scenes, there's many more that I didn't intend on showing you today, but since we're looking at Funambule, that is finishing the blooming cycle, and I will be repotting it soon and therefore removing all of the blooms, it's worth showing them to you today at the end of this February monthly bloomers episode.